Hi, everybody. I am Sharon Sumner. I come from a company called Business Cloud Integration, which I run a team of experts. But more importantly, I'm a big community speaker and I'm a Microsoft MVP for business applications. So you'll see me speaking at many events and hopefully we've met at one of them. If not, look forward to meeting you soon. Welcome to the Global Azure Virtual Pre-Recorded Slide Deck. Today I'm going to look at part one of a two-part series that I'm going to show you. So part one I'm showing you in this pre-recorded session, and part two I'll be live on the 25th of April to show you in person. So part one we're going to look at contract creation with Power Automate. This is not really Azure in the way that you guys are deep into your Azure content, but what I'm doing is I'm showing you some of the low-code tools that are available to you that are all wrapped up and ready for use. Obviously, we're based on Azure because Power Automate comes from Logic Apps, so it's very much a cut-down version of Logic Apps ready for end users to be able to use. So what I'm going to show you today is how any business user, power user, can create a solution that empowers the company and gets you to business value faster. I'm Sharon Sumner, MVP, and I'm really an evangelist on the Power Platform, Office 365, but I come from SharePoint Online or SharePoint Traditional. I've been doing SharePoint for a few too many years, but it really is my passion. To engage with the community, I run the Cambridge, that's in the UK, Power Apps and Flow user group, which I now think we call the Power Platform user group. And that's something where we have quarterly, now virtual events. But we like to get together and look at what's new and exciting in the Power Platform. So today we're going to look at contract creation. Now, what we've got here is a scenario that comes up a lot. So this is where a long and complex document is needed, but it has some fill-in slots that we need to fill in for every individual client, supplier, or whatever it is we're using it for. So it's important for the team that are creating these long, complex NDAs, client contracts, to be able to easily fill in the few details that need to be created in that document without having to go through and find every location. And it's important that we use the correct, most up-to-date form of that template. So what we're looking to do today is to provide a really easy end user experience surfaced through Microsoft Teams to give the end user the ability to add details to one list, to set a couple of variables, and for that to create the right document quickly and easily for them. And that's really what we're going to show you today. Technology we're going to use is Power Automate. So we're going to be creating a flow with the Populate a Word Template Premium connector. Caveat, don't ask me about licensing. It will change between you watching this video and me having recorded it. So do look up the licensing that you need. This is a premium connector currently, so does need an extra license. So part one, really, we're going to look at setting this up. So I believe in showing you everything, warts and all. So there are a couple of little tweaks in here that I'll show you. But also, this is to show you how to actually follow the steps through. So we're not just talking theory. This is the solution in practice. So let's jump in. So this is a Microsoft team that we've already created called the contract team. And if we open that contract team SharePoint location, this is where we're going to keep the lists and libraries for automating the system. So if we go to the top level site, we can then choose to create a new document library. Now, the first thing that we need is some templates. So we're going to create a templates document library and we're going to throw in a couple of templates. So the templates that I'm going to put in here, there's one that I've created a really simple document. As you'll see, it's really simple. And the other is the out-of-the-box Word statement of work template, which is really quite good. So if we look at these documents, you'll be able to see, if I just open that up in the app, you'll be able to see what it is that I've done. So this document only has 3 fields on it. And if we jump into the developer tab, we'll be able to see on design mode the 3 fields that I'm talking about. So we have type, model, and contact. We can easily add another field by using the relevant field addition and give it a name. And then we can address that field within the Power Automate flow that we're going to create. So that's the really simple document. If we look at the other one, which is the out-of-the-box Word statement of work, that's a bit more complex. And here we can see lots and lots of content. This is more like the type of document that we're looking at for this scenario. Now, the developer template is seen here. So this is how you add the developer menu, sorry, not template, to your window. And here you can see lots and lots of fields. Now, the nice thing about this solution is that Power Automate will automatically detect those fields and add them to your solution for you. So it's really nice that way. So now we've got our templates in place, we need to add in another document library for the created contract to live in. So let's call this contract. And this is where we're going to put the finished file once we've put the details into that finished file. So here we are, just a document library with that data in it. Now, the third thing that we need is a list. So the list will be where the end user is putting in the details that we want to customize the document with. So we'll call this contract details, and let's add in a couple of columns that are relevant to the type of contract that we want to create. So company name, and let's also put contact in there. And this is just to show you that it populates the data. Now, my goal today is to show you a really vanilla solution to give you the idea of how this all works so that you can go away and extend this to whatever your organization needs. So that's our basic setup done. We have the lists in place. So part 2 is creating the flow. So let's jump in. We're going to jump to Power Automate, which is where flows live. And we're going to create a brand new flow. It's an automated flow. Let's skip this step. And we're going to look for a trigger from SharePoint. So we want the flow to kick off the moment somebody adds some details to that contract details list that we created in SharePoint. So when an item is created or modified in our list, we want this to trigger the flow. What we're going to do is create an action. This is the premium connector. So we're looking for the populated Word document premium connector. So let's use the search box, find that connector, and fill in some details. So now we need to tell it where it is that we're going to be getting the template from. So this is the template document library, which we call templates. And we have to pick the file. Now, importantly, it's not the download content, but instead the folder that we need to click to select the document. And like I say, when you select the document, you'll see a bunch of fields come up from that document. If we pick the simple document, you'll see there's like those 3 fields again. Okay, so it's automatically detecting those developer design fields that we put into the document. It's important to note. So your document needs to be prepared before you come to this part of the solution. So what we're going to do is from the dynamic content, we're picking some fields that we pulled out from the list that was completed. And the last thing that we're going to do now that we've populated that template is we're going to park that template somewhere. So we're going to give it a name and we're going to save it. So now we want to create a file, which importantly, you must pick the SharePoint action for this. People often pick the OneDrive one and then it only scopes OneDrive. So we want to put it into our team site. Actually, we're going to put it in the contract team, which is where we want it to be. And we're going to choose the folder path, which is the contracts document library that we set up. We're going to give it a file name. Now, this is the first eccentricity of Power Automate or Flow. So no matter what I put here after this company name, when I save this flow, that will just get deleted. It doesn't matter what we do on first save, I always find that bit deletes. But as long as we know that, we can cope with that. The file content is going to be from the populate Word template step. Now, to make sure I get things right, let's rename that and best practice is to rename your actions so that you know they're yours and you know which is which. So we're going to say add my values to the document is the action that we do here, so that when we're down here, the file content, we can pick the Microsoft Word document from within the action that we created. So let's do that. We're going to save the flow. We are going to rename it because that's a horrific lengthy name that we've got there. Again, best practice so that you know which one you're going in and out of. Let's give it a decent name. We're going to hit save again. And even though we've done that a couple of times, when we exit, it's going to ask us if we're okay to leave the page. We are. So if we go back into that flow, I'll show you that docx part has completely disappeared. I don't know why it does it, but it does it every time. So we'll pop that back in again and hit save. And now when we go out and come back in again to the edit screen, you'll notice that it's survived. So again, just an eccentricity. I'm sure it will go away eventually. So the next thing that we want to do is to be able to test the solution by filling in some details and making sure that it picks the template. So we'll do that in a testing step. So when testing the solution, we need to jump back to the contract details list in SharePoint, which we already have open. We need to add a record which will kick off or trigger the Power Automate flow. So let's just put in a fictitious company name and myself as the contract name, because I can remember that one easily. And there we are. So we have some details. If we jump back into Power Automate, we should see the flow run. Now, point of note, it takes 60 seconds to kick off a flow usually. And the flow itself, when creating Word documents, could probably take about another minute for that to run as well. So if we look through, we can see it picked up the values and it has a green tick against creating the file, and it even has a file extension. So happy days. Let's go and find that file. And here it is. So if we open that file in the app, you'll see that it populated the details within the template. So here we are, simple template, simple values, completed for you. Hey presto. So that's really the first part of the solution. Our job now is to extend that to cover a more complex scenario, because it's never as simple as fill in some details on one document. So we really need to add more. Let's jump into the video and I'll show you what I mean. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to contract details and we're going to say, okay, I may want to pick the type of document that we're going to create. So I already have two in my document library. So let's use a choice field that we can tell the Power Automate or the flow to differentiate which one came in. So we've got our simple document and our statement of work. In addition, let's have a yes/no column for whether or not we want to create the document right away. For any of you that know and have filled in contract details, you have to go and fetch the company's company registration number and their address. And these might be details that you don't have to hand. So we'll create a yes/no to be able to trigger the flow and then decide if we're actually creating that document right now. Having done that within the list, we now need to come back to the flow and do some little updates. So we need to add a condition right at the beginning to know whether or not we're creating the document right now. So we call it, it's a condition or a control. So we're going to add the control in, pick condition, and we're going to say if the create now is true, which is how a yes/no comes through, then we're going to go down the yes branch of this flow, which means we can add our actions directly into there. We're going to add another condition in the yes statement to find out which type of document it is. Now it's important here to add the document type value rather than just document type. And what that will do is be a one or another. So we've only got two types. So we're doing a single condition, yes, no. So if it's yes to simple, then create the simple one. If no, we're going to create the statement of work. Now, what we could do if we had 10 different document types in that list is we could have 10 parallel branches here that would run all at the same time based on a switch statement. So that's a slightly different type of condition, but as easy to add as this. And you can see what I did there is that I copied the add values to the document template in the create file that I'd already had on the left-hand side in the yes, and I was about to paste them using my clipboard action there in the right-hand side for the no. Now, the caveat of doing that is if you are copying and pasting that, you will need to reset the values within those actions to make sure they are relevant to the step that you're in. So for what I've got there, it's almost worth having started from scratch, but I wanted to show you that that clipboard feature is there, so it's not such an overhead to be creating each of these case statements if you had multiple types of document. So now we want to test the solution. So let's, we can see here that I've added this detail in. I've made sure here that that Word document is coming from my action. So you'll see that mine on the right-hand side here is called Create Statement of Work. I'm going to make sure I pick the right Word document so that I get the right thing through when it's created. So there is nothing in our no branch, so everything should fall straight through the yes. If the condition is no to create now, then it will do nothing and just complete the flow. So you can see our record here where we've got create now set to no. If we edit that and switch it to create now to yes, then the flow will run and we'll go down the yes branch. We jump back to flow, have a look at the previous runs. Ours isn't there yet. We'll just hit refresh. 60 seconds, refresh. And there's our flow running. And we can see now it's succeeded. So if we jump in here, you can see the condition was true. Therefore, it's gone down the yes, and we have a tick on the condition. And we can also see the green ticks on the statement of work side as well. So it knew to create a statement of work. That's what we picked. And if we refresh the contracts page, we should now see a statement of work. So exactly the same details as the contract, but now in a statement of work. So there's another use for you. If we open the document, we should have the complex statement of work document, which we have, and we should have our data filled in. Now, there were hundreds of fields on here, and I just randomly picked a few. So let's just prove that. There's my name, and I think we had Sharon's flowers, and there it is. So the data goes into the field that you pick that field to go into. So we can see that's working beautifully. Now, the other test to do would be to see if we get the simple document if we had picked the simple use case within our contract details. So let's create a new document that is not ready to be sent. So we'll call this test 2, not ready. And we will pick this time the simple. We're going to say create no, and just prove that that doesn't create. I have to hit refresh here. There we are. And we can see the condition was met, but it was false. So this left-hand side did not get executed because the action is not satisfied. If, however, we go back to that list and switch the no to a yes, oh, I'm just showing you there that the contract wasn't created either. So now let's switch that to a yes, because now we're ready. We've got all the details, albeit we've still called it not ready. Oversight on my part. So what should happen now is that the flow should kick off and it should actually create a document this time. So there we are, we can see it running and now it's succeeded. We jump into the flow, we can see the condition is met and the condition follows all the way down the left-hand side. Okay, so if we jump back to the document library, we should see a simple document, not ready contract. If we open that up, we should see those few variables in the very simple format that we picked for the simple document. There it is, not ready, complete this, ideal. Okay, so that really demonstrates the flexibility of that part of the solution. Now what we want to do is we want to make it easy for the team to be able to use this solution without keep going under the hood as we did there. So the way we do that is we're going to bring in a couple of the elements, but only a couple, into the team site itself. Our assumption here is that the team creating these contracts will need to be able to fill in the details and to be able to see the finished contract. But they aren't necessarily the team that are going to be changing the template. That perhaps is legal, or a contracts team that is creating those base legal documents. So in here, we're going to add a completed contracts tab, and we're going to add a contract details tab. Arguably, they should be the other way around. There we go. So when a user is in here, they can quickly and easily create a new contract details instance. And they have no concept of what's going on underneath. So now we have new company and we have a document type that we're going to pick as statement of work, and we're going to say crack on and create that now. Now, what I would suggest, because as you'll see here, we've created this record. We know this is created successfully. We've just tested the solution, so we know it's going to work. But when I jump back to here as an end user, I'm not seeing it. I can see my record here, but if I jump to completed contracts, it's not there yet. So usually you would, as an admin, you're going to jump into Flow. You're going to do exactly as I'm doing here. You're going to nip back and you're going to check that the flow actually ran successfully, which it did. We can see that success there. Oh, and there's the third record, and that one succeeded too. And we now know if we come back in here and hit refresh, that the site will eventually appear, the document will eventually appear. Oh, there we are. I hadn't quite seen the record yet. So when we're developing, we see all of this. So this is something to consider from an end user point of view, how we might want to extend the solution so that once we've completed the details, we can tell the end user that there's going to be a bit of a delay. As you can see there, this is waiting. This is probably going to get to a minute before we actually get a result back. So having waited a minute for it to execute and then another minute for it to create the document, we want to build in some technology in there, and I won't show you it because it's relatively simple, to allow the end user some notification to know that that was happening in the background and that those contract details that they filled in are now going to establish, a contract to be in place. So we can now see that the contract is there and that the details have in fact populated. So you would naturally extend this solution. And again, I don't have time to show it for you now because we want to keep this session fairly short. So you could have put at the end of each of those stages a notification to the user to say, thank you for filling in the details and hitting yes. We're creating your document. We'll be back in a moment. Or simply just create an email or a notification in Teams for when the document has actively been created. So to sum up, did we meet the typical use cases? I think we did. So if you think about this in terms of statement of work or terms and conditions, or even if you were to go into a purchase order or an invoice processing, there's a use case here that says we got the most recent document, we populated it with the details that we needed, and we quickly and easily got to a solution where, having put in the pieces of information that I have control over in the contract team, I managed to populate an acceptable legal document that the company gave me as a template. So that's a really successful and easy to create business solution. So when I come back on the live session on the 25th of April, what I'll show you is the other end of the life cycle. So what happens once you've created one of these Word documents is that'll get sent out into the world, and any project manager or contract creator will know that no contract survives first contact. So it will change, it will develop over time, terms will change, dates will change before that contract comes back to you, usually as a PDF countersigned. So what we'll show you in the live session is what to do with that countersigned PDF. Now, because I'm going to show you how to use a particular template, we're going to use the Power Apps AI Builder to read that document in and then create as a SharePoint list of active contracts. And that will even have the expiry date in there. And we could, if we wanted to, put some expiry logic on there to 3 weeks or the month that this is going to renew, to start notifying people we need a new contract. And then we can run back through this process to create the most recent contract for renewal on whatever type of contract that is. Okay, so I'm Sharon Sumner. Again, it's been a delight to share with you a solution that I've developed. I hope this has been useful for you. Please do come along on the 25th of April to see me do the second half of this solution with the Power Apps AI Builder. And hopefully we'll be able to look at the contract lifecycle in full, and you'll have a solution to take back to your company to make sure that we've delivered some business value and made the best of your time today. See you soon.